The Satanic Bible. The Satanic Bible is basically kind of a reverse Bible, where instead of following the Ten Commandments, you only have to follow your desires. Written by Anton LaVey back in 1969, it's less about conjuring spirits and more about conjuring controversy. This dark horse of religious literature comes from San Francisco's counterculture scene, which ultimately gave rise to the Church of Satan. It looked less like a holy text and more like the manifesto of a rebellious teenager. Now, you might be thinking that this book is full of instructions on sacrificing goats and summoning demons for your next house party, but instead, LaVey preaches a philosophy of indulgence instead of abstinence. He favors vengeance over turning the other cheek. Unlike the conventional Christian doctrine, it treats the 7 deadly sins like they're items on a self-care checklist. Lust? Go for it. Pride? You're worth it. Greed? Treat yourself. It's like a self-help book written by Satan himself. So in essence, it completely flips traditional religious morality on its head, basically telling people to be their own gods, which doesn't sit well with, actual religions that prefer their deities a little less mortal and a lot more divine. LaVey's Bible also includes a lot of rituals and magic, but it's less Harry Potter and more roleplay with candles. There's a whole section in the book dedicated to rituals related to destruction. This was enough to send conservative parents into a panic, imagining their teenagers turning their bedrooms into miniature versions of medieval times, but with more edgy music. The Lesser Key of Solomon. How would you feel if you found out that your school's detention list was actually a catalog of demons you could summon to do your homework? That's exactly the idea behind the Lesser Key of Solomon. It's a supernatural yellow pages for conjuring spirits to assist you in your daily chores. This mystical manual is like the ultimate cheat code for wannabe wizards. It's packed with instructions on how to summon and control 72 demons, each with their own special needs. Need help with your math test? There's a demon for that. Want to become invisible? There's another infernal buddy ready to assist. It's like having an Alexa that's been condemned to hell. The book doesn't just stop at demon summoning though. It's got magical seals, rituals, and enough occult knowledge to make Gandalf look like a birthday party magician. It's basically the Swiss Army knife of grimoires, with a ton of tools for supernatural mischief. But the book is by no means something you can toy with. For starters, messing with demons is generally frowned upon in most religions, and that's for good reason. If you don't have the mental fortitude required to control these entities, you can easily land yourself in a hodgepodge of psychological issues. Some of the rituals described involve some pretty questionable practices as well, like using blood or making sacrifices, the kind of stuff that would make your stomach churn if you're not a seasoned black magic enthusiast. Gospel of Judas. Imagine someone tells you whatever you know about history is wrong. That's basically what the Gospel of Judas does to Christianity. It was discovered in the Egyptian desert, traded on the black market like some kind of historical hot potato, until it was found in May 1983 alongside a ton of other strange manuscripts. The Gospel of Judas flips the script on one of the most famous betrayals in history, turning the ultimate bad guy into, sort of a star. The book claims that Judas wasn't actually a traitor who sold out Jesus for a handful of coins. In fact, he was Jesus's BFF, and the only disciple who really understood the plan. In this version of events, Jesus is like, "Psst, Judas, I need you to do me a solid and turn me in. It's all part of the big cosmic plan." And Judas, being the loyal friend he is, says, "Sure thing, boss," and goes through with it. So Judas helps Jesus in fulfilling his destiny by selling him out. Now, this obviously doesn't sit well with most churches. It sparks controversy by challenging everything people have believed about Jesus, Judas, and the whole crucifixion story for centuries. It's like finding out that Darth Vader was actually the hero of Star Wars all along. Some early heretical Christians actually believed this version of the story to be true, but they also had other strange beliefs, like they thought the world wasn't created by the biblical God, but by another lesser god. The Gospel of Judas even mentions Jesus laughing at the other disciples for praying to the wrong god. The Book of Shadows. You're at a sleepover and your friend pulls out a mysterious, leather-bound book that looks like it fell straight out of a wizard's magic drawer. And it's not their diary filled with crush confessions, it's a Book of Shadows, the DIY spellbook that makes Hogwarts dark arts class look like a preschool cooking lesson. The Book of Shadows isn't some mass-produced text that you can snag at Barnes & Noble, it's the ultimate arts and crafts project for witches, like a spiritual scrapbook. Now, traditional witches can have 2 books of shadows, one being a coven book that lays out the core rituals that all new initiates have to follow, while the other is their own draft, filled with spells, rituals, and magical knowledge for personal use. So the Book of Shadows is a living book that is constantly updated. It is is the central text in Wicca, a pagan religion focusing on nature worship and witchcraft. Many books of shadows include information on contacting spirits or pagan deities, which obviously does not sit well with traditional religions. These spirits might sometimes demand sacrifices that could put your well-being at risk. There's often talk about sky-clad rituals, which basically involve dancing naked around a fire to call to a deity or to put up a curse. All of these things make it really hard for religions such as Christianity and Islam to have a soft spot for the book. Many conservative Christian groups have even labeled the book to be dangerous and sacrilegious, creating a lot of controversy around it. Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is like that cool uncle who tells wild stories at family reunions. Fascinating, but maybe not entirely trustworthy. This ancient text was the life of the party in some Jewish and early Christian circles, but then it got booted from most biblical canons by the 5th century. There could be a lot of reasons for that. The Book of Enoch is filled with angelic drama and cosmic secrets, packing more heavenly gossip than a divine tabloid. It features rogue angels, giant offspring, and enough apocalyptic visions to put all of your doomsday preparations to shame. Then, the book is claimed to be written by Enoch, Noah's great-grandfather, who apparently had VIP access to all of heaven's juiciest secrets, but that can't really be proved. It spills the beans on why Noah's flood happened, blaming it on a bunch of angels who decided dating humans was a good idea. Talk about forbidden love. The Book of Enoch also goes into detail about fallen angels teaching humans forbidden knowledge. We're talking magic, weapon making, and even makeup tips. It's like these angels were running a cosmic YouTube channel of life hacks, but without God's permission. One of the primary reasons it was discarded by the church is because it talks about a messianic figure called the Son of Man, which later Christians believed could be confused for Jesus. This would contradict mainstream religious teachings faster than you can say heresy. Seeing the apparent danger of the text, the church decided to scrap the book altogether. Despite being kicked out of the biblical canon in most places, the Book of Enoch has managed to survive. It's still canonical in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church and continues to fascinate scholars, mystics, and anyone who enjoys their religious texts with a side of cosmic intrigue. The Grand Grimoire. Written somewhere in the 16th century, the Grand Grimoire is considered by many to be the premier spellbook for all of your occult needs. This spellbook is so notorious that it makes other occult texts look like my first magic kit in comparison. What makes this book so spicy is that it's got step-by-step instructions on how to make a pact with Lucifer himself. It's like a demonic version of LinkedIn, helping you network with the Prince of Darkness. But there's more. This book also teaches you how to command demons, find hidden treasure, and even become invisible. It's basically a cheat code for life, if your idea of cheating involves giving up your soul. The book takes things up a notch with recipes for several powerful curses. It's like a cookbook for chaos, with a side of eternal damnation. However, dealing with satanic entities and curses can cause more harm than good, so you should probably admire the beauty of such a work from afar, from the safety of your local prayer group. Despite its notorious reputation, the Grand Grimoire has fascinated occultists and curious readers for centuries, being viewed by many as the forbidden fruit of magical texts. However, just like that sketchy email that claims you've won a big lottery, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably involves compromising on eternal salvation. The Book of the Law. While many have heard of books inspired by God, Aleister Crowley's 1904 work was often believed to be inspired by the devil. Crowley claimed that the Book of the Law was dictated to him by an entity called Iwis during a trip to Egypt. It's like he had a supernatural travel guide, but instead of giving directions, he was spouting a whole new religion. The book's main message was, do what thou wilt. It's like telling kids the only rule is there are no rules. A philosophy that makes parents, teachers, and religious leaders throw up in disgust. The book is also packed with cryptic verses, mind-bending philosophy, and mystical mumbo-jumbo that seems like confusing gibberish at the surface. However, the main theme remains constant, with emphasis on ceremonial magic sometimes added to the mix. This supposed spiritual revelation also serves as the central text in Crowley's very own religion, Thelema, for which he proclaimed to be a prophet. His philosophy was a mix of ancient Egyptian religion and Western occultism, seemingly looking like a severe case of identity crisis. Crowley's book challenges pretty much every mainstream religion to the extent of blasphemy. It's got gods and goddesses behaving in an ungodly manner, having enough sexual symbolism to make a sex ed teacher blush. The book also includes some pretty intense stuff about human sacrifice, which Crowley later claimed was metaphorical. His work has influenced everything from modern paganism to rock music, making the Book of the Law a bedrock for counterculture. It has even been banned a few times for corrupting the youth with its hedonistic messages, but whether or not the book was revealed by a demonic entity, it continues to invoke satanic panic to this day. Shams al-Ma'arif. You're exploring a dusty old bookshop in Egypt, when suddenly you stumble upon a leather-bound book that looks like it belongs in Dumbledore's restricted section. Unknown to you, you've just found Ahmad al-Buni's 13th century writing Shams al-Ma'arif al-Kubra, the magic manual that makes Harry Potter's spellbooks look like children's novels. This Islamic grimoire is the holy grail of magic books in the Muslim world. It's like the supernatural equivalent of finding Einstein's lost notebook, but for medieval Islamic scholars seeking divine mysteries. It's packed with hidden knowledge, magical squares, and mystical symbols that would make even the most seasoned fortune teller's head spin. But this book isn't just a harmless collection of party tricks for impressing your friends at the local bazaar. Instead, it's chock full of instructions on how to harness the power of shapeshifters and angels for your personal gain. That's right, if you want to find hidden treasure, there's a spell for that. Or if you feel like making someone fall in love with you, just draw this magical square and boom, your love life now has a supernatural twist. Now, this book is so controversial because its rituals involve using Quranic verses and divine names in ways that make traditional Islamic scholars clutch their prayer beads in anger. Also, practicing any form of magic is forbidden in Islam and is considered a major sin, making the content of the book even more hostile. Over the centuries, the Shams al-Ma'arif has been banned, burned, and blamed for everything from natural disasters to bad hair days. It's the book that sparked more religious debates than a cafeteria argument about pineapple on pizza, basically making it the satanic verses of the medieval Islamic world. Codex Gigas. Your history textbook had a wild night out with a medieval grimoire and decided to have a baby the size of a miniature fridge. That is basically the Codex Gigas, also known as the Devil's Bible. Legend has it that the entire book was written in just one night by a monk who made a deal with the devil. It's like pulling an all-nighter for your history exam, but instead of energy drinks, you've got Satan as your study buddy. Whether this really happened or not cannot be confirmed. What's known for certain is that the book was written somewhere in the 13th century. The special thing about the book is that it starts off with a full-size portrait of the devil, grinning like he just won the most charming fallen angel contest, and that made people believe that the pages are cursed. But it's not just a photo album. The Codex Gigas is a weird mishmash of biblical texts, historical chronicles, and magical formulas. It's like someone took a regular Bible, history books, and a wizard's spellbook and tossed them into a medieval blender. Some of the magical texts inside the book are said to be powerful enough to summon demons or cure diseases. It's like having a YouTube tutorial for summoning a bloodthirsty monster right next to a recipe for chicken soup. This mixture of religious texts and occult knowledge eventually led the book to be labeled as blasphemous by many religious authorities. People also claim to have experienced psychological distress while reading the book. Over the centuries, the Codex Gigas has been blamed for everything from wars to bad harvests. It was pretty much treated as a symbol of bad fortune.